Hello and welcome. It's very nice to be here. I was just saying to a few of you how very good it feels to be back in Tucson after we were away for a little bit, and especially to be back here among you all with POG. POG is a nonprofit collective devoted to poetry in all of its forms. We organize poetry readings and interdisciplinary arts events, as most of you will know, from September to May each year. And so for this evening's event, our first in our regular reading series of this year, 2024, we're proud to present incredible local duo, Karima Walker and Gabriel Dozal. And this evening our programming, yes, sorry, I need to leave some space in there, sorry. This evening our program is supported by the Arizona Commission for the Arts Foundation for Tucson and Southern Arizona, the UA Poetry Center, Poets and Writers, the University of Arizona English Department, and many individual supporters. And you, if you like what we're doing and would like to support our mission, you can donate what you can at the door or via PayPal through our website. This evening is an event open to everybody, and POG strives to make our events a welcoming and safe space for all. If that's not your experience, please let one of our POG board members know, and they can maybe raise their hand so you know you're surrounded.
Infiltrated.
Yeah. We would like to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional territory of the Tohono O'odham and the Pasca Yaqui nations. It's an honor to be here tonight on this land and with all of you. So thank you for being here with us, with each other. Tonight our two readers will be introduced by POG board members John Malillo and Charles Alexander. So I will first welcome John up to introduce Karima.
My pleasure to introduce a friend and fellow Tucson artist this evening, the songwriter and sound artist and performance artist and sculptor and beyond, Karima Walker. Karima works with, around, between, and through sound and space. She creates songs, drones, sound designs, audio recordings, video art, sound sculptures, and, as we'll see, site-specific performances. I've seen Karima perform on nearly every stage in Tucson, but also on multiple patches of earth, squares of museum concrete, living room floors, and memorably, the Arroyo Chico drainage tunnel underneath Stone Avenue. It was deep in there. Her work, her sounds moves between dream and waking life, between self and landscape, between duration and space, between sound itself and inherited song forms, between embodied voice and the otherness of vibration. Her recent album, Waking the Dreaming Body, selected as a favorite or best album of the year in 2021 in multiple music journals, plays exactly with this in-between, where the seeming interiority of voice and song dissolves into basins and mountain ranges of our shared desert world. So all this in-betweenness. What I want to say, I think most of all, is that Karima is a traveler. But she's a traveler in an expansive and specific sense. The author William Least Heat Moon, in his epic book of Kansas, Prairie Earth, describes it. He says, two-dimensional Rand McNally travelers who see a region as having borders will likely move in only one locality at a time. But travelers who perceive a place as part of a deep landscape in a slow rotation at the center of a sphere and radiating infinite lines in an indefinite number of directions will move in several regions at once. Karima Walker moves in several regions at once, radiating infinite lines of sound, image, imagination, and movement. Please join me in welcoming her into this space tonight. Thank you, Karima.
Usually I'm performing songs and sharing video, and tonight I'm going to share a work in progress with you. It's tentatively titled Graves for the Rain. The piece aims to be in conversation with the hydrologically dead rivers here in Tucson. I'm using earth taken from the Santa Cruz River and its historic floodplain for path making and unmaking, for considering the river as a body and processes of human intervention. If you would like to move closer, please feel free, but no pressure.
just told Karima, she's here presenting with a poetry organization, and how I feel like, poetry is not always what you expect it to be, not always what you think it maybe is supposed to be, but more often than not is what you need it to be, whether you knew that or not. And I felt like that's just what I experienced. A little bit after it started, I put myself in a kind of meditation position, which is something I participate in. And I don't know if that helped or not, because I still wanted to watch her too. But in a time which is rife with nothing but problematic issues, this was both a demonstration of something about the earth we live in, but it was also something which put me in a very thoughtful position, which I really appreciate. I also want to offer an apology to Gabriel Dozal and an apology to POG, because I totally forgot I was introducing Gabriel tonight. And so, but I still want to say something about him and my thinking about him, as well as, mentioning his book, The Border Simulator, which I love, The Border Simulator, because Gabriel, who is from El Paso, nothing but a border crosser, which is something I think people in this audience, and certainly the POG group, are used to different kinds of border crossers. I also want to quote another Gabriel I know, which is a 9-year-old poet I taught in a workshop once many years ago, writing a poem based on his name, the letters in his name, Gabriel, who wrote, "Gay angels break rules in every language."
Yeah.
I mean, 9-year-olds.
Okay, I'll see what else.
9-year-olds. His teacher told Cynthia, who's right there, and I, who were teaching that workshop, that she didn't know she had students who were creative, and we were like, 9-year-olds, they're nothing but creative. And I don't know if Gabriel Dozal is a gay angel. He may be in one way or another. I don't know that he breaks rules, but I know that he crosses lines. This is that crossing borders, and he crosses lines, the easier ones, poetry to prose, Spanish to English, different languages, but also in my experience of him in the last, since I've known him, which is about the last just few years, in terms of people who have different definitions and desires of poetry. He is an experimental poet and a romantic poet. He, in a certain way, he doesn't care what you think poetry is supposed to be. He cares what it does and how it moves you. And he has certainly moved me in different ways in the last few years in his readings. And I'm just really happy to introduce Gabriel.
So I wanted to thank everyone who has anything to do with POG. I love POG so much. I got to introduce Rosa Alcalá several years ago when she read with Monica de la Torre. I got to meet Monica de la Torre. I got to meet Charles Bernstein last year. And then all the amazing readings that POG puts on and adds to a stupidly rich poetry community that I'm very, very proud and happy to be a part of. Okay, so I try to challenge myself every reading to write something new. So some of these are pretty new. Some of these are just a little bit new, so I'm going to read that, and then I'll read a bunch of small poems from the book. And I've been trying to write prose lately, and then they just keep turning into poems, so this is something I need to hear. And it's about my uncle Eddie, who grew up on Tigua Circle, this neighborhood in El Paso. Here we go. Eddie dies, lives, and then shoots up on Tigua Circle. Eddie has posters of Black Sabbath above his bed. Eddie has blankets of wolves howling at a moon to cover up the window so that every minute is death metal parking lot party time. Eddie loved the statue of St. Bartholomew because Eddie also wished he could peel off all of his skin and wear it like a scarf. Eddie loves and lives by the edicts set forth by Space Ace, Demon, and Star Child. Eddie rolls all night but is mostly asleep during the day. Eddie bench presses 200 and his amps go to 12. Eddie is trying to forget his son, who was crushed by a grand piano. Eddie is trying to forget the time he was the passenger in a car that backed up into a child on Tigua Circle. Today we doom scroll, but on Tigua Circle in the 70s, you doom lived. You lived in doom, you smelt like doom, you doom slept. Sleep inside this doom and gloom. The doom and gloom keeps you warm, a fireplace in the corner. But what do we use as kindling? Our time, duh. It's the seconds and then the minutes that we throw straight into the kindling. Watch it crisp and crackle. It's the fat that's popping in the fire of our life on the border. Eddie says that if you knew the day you were going to die, you could plan a death day party and get ripped right before you pass. Eddie has died and came back to life so many times and now finds himself once again in the morgue. The mortician says she never forgets a body. She notices that Eddie has already had an autopsy performed. This body has been here before. What is strange about Eddie is that Eddie won't stay dead. The thing about crossers like Eddie is that they don't stay dead. Eddie lives, dies, and shoots up on Tigua Circle. His son was crushed by a grand piano in 1986, but his son, his namesake, did not come back to life. But this was the first time Eddie passed. Eddie shoots cocaine. He's the cooker, he's the filter, he's the syringe. Eddie tries every day to escape his life, but he's trapped inside his skin. People mistake Eddie for an Apache Indian because, see, se mira como indio. But Eddie only speaks Spanish and English. Eddie has lived many deaths and many lives, and it's in his deaths that he thrives at work. Eddie fixes diesel engines. Love was anywhere with diesel gas. Okay, so... Okay, now these are some really, real rough, wild stuff here, so it's a bit of a shorter one. The border was an inside job. I'm from there. I would know. Everyone's job is hidden inside themselves. That's what I mean. You can see the job peeking out from the first layer of skin of the crossers. A job wearing a human suit. These jobs are continually entering our country, illegally hidden inside these crossers. These are illegal jobs, and the jobs need to go to jail or be detained. Detain this job, please. And then drain the jobs of their soul juice. What is soul? What is juice? What is sickness? What are the faces that everyone has to face? Over here, customs, ding ding. So, I don't know what it is, but mostly I'm really inspired by terrible B movies right now. It's just my favorite thing in the world. It's my favorite art form. I go to this thing called Mondo Monday try to go every Monday, see these just god-awful movies. Terrible horror and slasher flicks from the 80s. So that's the only thing I can explain these next two poems. I thought you disconnected the screamer from the wall. I did. Then why did I hear someone scream just a moment ago? Who leaves the door open to their own life? You should always close your life so you can keep it close. The interior person is so much more valuable than the exterior person. Us customs can see the future of the border by reading the creases left by Primitivo in his mylar sheet. Let us trace the lines of your face, or the lines that you left in this mylar blanket. What are the lines of Primitivo's face? Tell us. They say, you'll own everything and be happy. Oh, no, wait, no, the other way. Go the other way, Primitivo. Nothing is the way, and the way is nothing. The way to nothing is paved with the lips of the born-again crossers. They were born once, and then born twice, and then they were born again. Double, no, triple born. But how is this possible to keep being reborn? Recycled, then refried? And it's this IDing of the born. Yes, the born identity that clues us in to who exactly these crossers are. To whom do they belong? What do they believe? What are they standing on? What is their platform? The bridge? Is that all crossers have to stand on? Surely they can stand on other things and not just the platform to the port of entry. Oh, look, the line of crossers and asylum seekers have begun to raise their hands as if they've been asked a question about their life. Their lives have always been questioned since the birth of the very first border, the Primitivo border, if you will. Red wine grapes, also called Zinfandel, birth to the infidels, and so on. Raise your glass to Primitivo, the sunset of the Southwest. Raise your glass to Primitivo, the sunrise of the sunset, or something like that. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna skip that. Okay, so sometimes I write tiny, small little poems. I kind of call it like my Rodney Dangerfield poems. They're just one-offs, just real quick. And then I noticed, like, as I was going through the book, I wanted to read some that I don't read too often. And most of the ones I don't read too often are these really short ones in the book. So I'm going to read these short ones from the book, but first I'm going to read these two really, really short ones. First one: spend hell in eternity. That crossing will cost you heaven and hell. It's waiting for you on the other side. Eternity's risk is boredom. I'm just trying to explore the inner clown. That's what it's all about, really, staying with the inner clown. I sit with my inner clown and I become more... I overheard this conversation at a restaurant where someone's talking about their inner clown, staying with the inner clown, and they also do that. Okay, the second one. The world is being beset by micro-charmers. Oh, that's cool. Tiny charmers. No, micro-traumas. Oh. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to read a bunch of like small ones now from the book, and hopefully I think they're kind of fun like these. Welcome to your lost creepy pasta. Bring me. So creepy pasta. You guys know what a creepy pasta is? Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, it's like, if you don't know, creepy pasta. It's like a cut and paste horror story. Like Slender Man. Google Slender Man. I think Slender Man was a famous creepypasta. Okay, welcome to your lost creepypasta. Primi. Customs. There was a crosser named Primitiva, whose 1986 Dodge Caravan was faster than light. They set out for the border simulator and returned the previous night. To come home before you've ever left is to remain unburnt by the border's sun. The challenge that crossers face is to leave their home and at the same time return. At first, I was afraid of telling the story of my genes. Many of our pants are legless and thus jobless. But now I know what Customs wants to hear when we discuss everything after the jungle. Any romance on the Fabrica work floor is a plus. Hide this crosser's note inside the jeweled denim top. A crosser named Primitiva could make a copy from any old jeans. But the copy pasta she wrote of the crosser's last note was too real, too true, and now she bathes in seams. Okay, this one is called The Crosser's Map of Remains. In exchange for my crossing story, I'm given dollar signs, more time in simulation. At a certain point, I want the simulation to end. I'm not a vampire who has no choice but to live forever. Yet I do live on in the records of Customs, just in case I came back to life. A rare and mostly impossible feat. To try and cross again, they'll remember me by my presence in the remains, not deaths. On this map given to all potential crossers, don't come to simulation. And please, don't come back. It's when Kamala Harris enters a poem at the very end. Okay, more short ones. You love emblems and flags, don't you, Primitiva? The flag of the border is its fence. It's the longest flag you've ever seen, rippling across the border. Where do all your fences live? All my fences live in Texas. The working majority, and the majority working, will never retire. We'll die before we retire. But we love work and cleaning. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention it. I'm going to start over. So this poem mentions Pharr, Texas. Pharr. It's a border town in South Texas. Okay, start anywhere. That's important. That's the setup for the joke. That's the setup. Okay. The working majority and the majority. I'm a bad comedian. I didn't even do the setup. The working majority and the majority working will never retire. We'll die before we retire. But we love work and cleaning, and we will never end. Our work will go on, near, far, wherever you are. I know that my work will go on past the border, where someone else will wear the bedazzled jeans I sewed, but my body will stay on this side. My voice also crossed the border without me and spoke back to me. I just want to buy some pants, the ones you made. It was at the Fabrica where I learned that seams last longer than me. The border simulator. The only thing sure in this world is death and Texas. The word crosser turtles in the throat of Customs while a worker steers other workers. She's someone to drive the car and sign a co-worker's name, Primitivo. Customs is deeply invested in watching Primitivo cross the border once a night, always a night, some closed-eye visual. The border simulator? More like border see you later. Were you pure of heart when you wrote this thing, or what? Okay. Let's see here. Maybe like 1, 2, maybe 4 more here. Dear Crosser, no te rías. If Customs says real women have traveling pants, what's a chola with one leg longer than the other? If Customs says you can't trust the laugh, not even. If Customs is wearing a skin suit that looks like you, even if Customs takes off the skin suit that looks like you, and then they take you to a back room where they make you strip down and put on the skin suit that looks like you, and then you have to traverse the simulation as a melty version of you, even if no te rías. So I like performing in the portal, but if I pass through the portal, avenge my death.
We'll find you.
Yeah. this next one I wanted to read is too serious, so I'm going to read one that's a little lighter and then go back to that one after. Okay. Can you caption this crosser? I'm captured by my captions. Yes, the words lasso me and keep me in the snare of a sentence I wrote. I get over the fence the same way I get over my sentence, wrapped in a mattress. I use the passive voice to increase my chances of passing. I won't be able to pass into the afterlife, because I just came from the after with the guy from At the Drive-In.
Oh, no.
Okay. You have a sister city in Juarez, but don't you also have a sister named Primitiva? We were laws waiting in line. In the holding cell, my sis told me all blankness leads to blankness, but I thought she said blankets. We only had our papers to cover us, and my sis laid her face down next to her laminated face. She had a dream that the wind took her laminated paper. She chased it, and when she caught up, the face turned into someone else's face, but the name was still hers. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, I'll do three more poems. And thank you guys, thanks for your time and attention. Does Customs secretly wish they could taste the crossers? I think Customs wants to know what they once tasted like. Because Customs were once crossers in a past, crossing life. And when they taste, they recognize a forgotten taste, but it's been so long since they've tasted themselves. They don't quite recognize themselves. It's sour, and at the same time, unpleasant to their primitive tongue. What they're tasting is their fave detainee, primitivo. If someone looks like you, does that mean they taste like you? Well, what do you taste like? Customs is licking themselves, nibbling their own shoulder, trying to taste what they taste like. Sabor a mí. Yes, a perfect description. I love getting like a capital or like a go. Then it kind of feels like I'm at Amando Monday, really. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so two more. Thank you guys. Speaking of we've gone so far in simulation and we haven't talked about your name, have we? They named you Primitivo because you were the firstborn in the border simulator. You can be the first, but that doesn't mean you get to stay. You're not a permanent. It doesn't matter. You're a resident because they were suspicious of your name and you proved them right. You were first in line, but also a primitive. You weren't as strict as Customs, but like Popeye said, if I'm not me, who am I? And if I'm somebody else, why do I look like me? I am what I am, but on the border, it's camote. Okay. All right. Okay. Here's the last one. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I think we're going to get beers after this. You know, at the sculpture garden. What is it called?
Oh,
Hop shop. Yeah, it's like a different sculpture. We're going from one sculpture garden to another sculpture garden. It's a sculpture garden tour. Thank you, guys. Okay. Will we be made private? Oh, so this is cool. This is interesting. Because the book's translated into English and Spanish, right? So it's got English on the left and Spanish on the right. And so I basically had to edit 2 books, and I helped the translator, of course, Natasha Tiniakos, who did like 95% of the heavy lifting in the Spanish, but she got to ask me things, and one amazing thing is that the Spanish is sometimes an updated, better version of the poem in English. So the title of the poem in English is, Will We Be Made Private, Only Visible to Ourselves? And this is a phenomenon I first heard of in 2017, which later I learned the name of this phenomenon is called shadow banning. So on a social media app, if you're shadow banned, you can see yourself, you can see your friends, but other people can't see you, I think. That's more or less the definition, right? I might get a little bit wrong with that, right? But I didn't know that was the name for it. So the title in Spanish is Que nos hagan shadow ban, será solo visible para nosotros. So like it's like a version from the future. And then sometimes I got to make the poems better too. You know, Okay, will we be made private, only visible to ourselves? The crossers were cropped, with areas of their face left out or framed in close-ups. Our operation is streamlined so that the crossers can catch themselves, represent themselves, and then drive their lives back to where we want them and don't want them. These crossers practically catch themselves. The crosser's signature was their bite marks. When you bite this paper, Brie, I know it's you from the gap in your teeth. And it was a gap in the border fence that brought you here. As scythes gallop across a desert, we linger in the vast storeroom of your eyes, Primi. Thank you, guys.